The one thing that ACORN says is we're not going to do something for someone that they can do themselves. We're going to give them the tools and empower them to do that thing because that's just much more effective. That's much more helpful than just simply doing it for someone. I'm the communications officer with an organisation called ACORN Lancaster and Morecambe, and it's a branch of the wider ACORN UK, which is a tenants union community response organisation. Ultimately, it's about building power in the working class communities around the UK and building power to protect the rights of tenants and renters, and we're doing that in the local area. We started this local branch in November. We had about 15 to 20 people. We now have about 110, 115 people in our union. We're one of the fastest growing branches of ACORN. From November, we were really chugging away, growing, raising awareness, doing member defence cases, and then March hit, and then very quickly, I'm sure you remember, everything changed. It was like a week or two where it became very clear coronavirus was a big threat, so brace for impact. When we could see this crisis basically was kicking off, we organised a coronavirus community support network across Lancaster and Morecambe. We went and did leafleting, socially distanced, and then I remember it was the first day of lockdown when things were really starting to get into motion and we had to quickly adapt. It's myself and our chair, Anna, and other committee members who were mainly running the COVID response at the beginning of lockdown. We basically were in charge of getting the COVID network up and running and getting people to realise it exists. I think between 15 and 20,000 leaflets went out over Lancaster and Morecambe, so people knew where to find us, who we were, what number to ring, etc. I think with ACORN, and I've noticed with a lot of groups that do COVID response, you have to be flexible because the community's needs are going to be flexible. The community's needs are going to come at all times of day. This crisis isn't 9 to 5. There's a lot of people who I know we've helped through COVID, through our mutual aid networks. It was a system that enabled communities to come together and a sort of broader sense of community response. A centralised system that can log what needs doing with the volunteers. A job comes up on a spreadsheet and you go on, you sign up to do that job on that day, and I think that really works quite well. We've got over 100 volunteers and over 1,000 volunteer jobs have been done, like food deliveries, prescription deliveries, even checking phone calls just to make sure the person's okay, and it's really amazing. I mean, people have formed connections to local neighbours and they never had that before. People were talking to their neighbours, and people who were shielding were getting help from people in the local community, and that's really what we're all about. We've helped people write to their landlords and ask for rent reductions, and we've helped people with repairs that need to be done in a time where you really need your hot water or your Wi-Fi, and we've done that through our COVID support network because it's more about empowering, giving a body for the local community. Community response and solidarity is helping a lot of people get through this crisis. One thing that has been heartwarming to see is that some people who used to ask for help on the COVID support network every week don't now. And the reason they don't is because they've got to know the people who've helped them. And so they don't need to go through us anymore. You don't need us as an intermediary. They know their neighbours enough to phone up and be like, oh, I need a food shop, but I'm shielding. And I think that's a powerful tool. So to be able to help organise that community response has been amazing. We had a day of action across Morecambe, Lancaster and the campus, and we had big demos and we had banner drops, chalking, things like that. It was amazing and it was so inspiring to see. We also did a rent strike with people at the university about unfair rent charges for the third term. When the university announced a massive rent reductions as a result, suddenly millions of pounds have been won. The rent strike had started 2 weeks before, 2 weeks of organising where we couldn't meet in person. It was all virtual, all done in our own homes. We had to rely on pushing it out there virtually. We had at least 650 people rent striking. That's so completely inspiring, and that was the power of organising. Although ACORN is here as an organising body, it's the people that are really driving it are the students that were rent striking. It's the people who take those actions into their own hands. Those are the people that are inspiring. I think now we've got a lot of momentum. I think a lot of unions and organisations like us have a lot of momentum, and we need to keep up that momentum, because though lockdown has eased, COVID hasn't gone, and certainly the repercussions for working class people have only going to get worse. A lot of COVID responses focus on lockdown, whereas I think there's going to be a huge need for community response in the coming months because of the eviction ban ending and furlough ending. The government is about to leave a lot of people by the wayside in order to focus on profit. A lot of people's lives are about to be drastically altered, and their quality of life is about to be massively affected. Eviction resistance and community resistance is going to be so important, because so many people are at risk of losing their homes. Renters are at very heightened risk. Shelter are predicting thousands of people could be evicted because of rent arrears accrued in the pandemic. I think we need to stand together as a community and fight against that, and the only way we can do that is by organising together. Ultimately, this is a time when, yeah, everything seems bleak, but I also think the dice have been thrown up in the air and we can make effective change. We're going to resist threats to our community because of COVID. We're going to stand up together, uniting the working class for just a better system and a better life for our local community. I'm very proud of what we've done and what we're doing, and I'm very proud of what we're setting up to do now about eviction resistance and community response. Eviction resistance and community support and organising is going to be important, and I'm ready for it. This is a time when I think it's really easy to fall into sort of a hole of despair and cynicism, but doing community response in ACORN has allowed me to see communities coming together in hope, and I just think seeing that, you can't be cynical. We need to protect people in our local community, because if this crisis has shown us nothing else, it's shown us the importance of community and, caring about each other.